the pay kuf dalit means we're pay kuf dalit as a people, because we don't understand the importance of an oath, but we swore an oath at Mount Sinai. Right, all that you said do, we will do, and that falls on this generation, from that generation all the way through. It doesn't go away.
That's right. Don't edit that out. That's part of this talk.
It all falls on the sons of Abraham, and if you see what you read in the apostolic scriptures, that if you follow Yahweh, you're sons of Abraham. So
our ancestors said, all that you said do, we will do, and we have yet to do it.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true.
Okay, so bringing us up into Jeremiah chapter 1. I'm going to jump through rather quickly, but we're headed toward Jeremiah 3 and 4.
And then Mark's got a really good teaching on divorce that we're going to reference to. So.
Sure. Okay, so Yahweh's speaking to Jeremiah here, and if we get to chapter 1, verse 8, Yahweh says, "Do not fear them, for I am with you to rescue you, Nam Yahweh." Okay, now we can take this out of context and say, look, he was talking to Jeremiah, that has nothing to do with us. And it's like, no, wait a minute. It's the same thing that Yahweh said to Moshe when he went to go talk to Pharaoh. It's the same thing he said to the children of Israel before they went into the promised land. It's the same thing that should be our heart immediately, present tense. Do not fear them, for I am with you to rescue you. And there's another verse I think I skipped over that I was going to mention, where Yahweh says, if we're afraid of them, then Yahweh's going to do something to us. Whatever we were afraid they were going to do to us, Yahweh's going to do to us if we show them fear and regard. It's a horrible verse, but I'm saying we got to know who our Elohim is. And that's the way he does stuff. See, then verse 10, Jeremiah 1, "See, I have appointed you this day over the nations and over the kingdoms, to uproot, to smash, to destroy, to overthrow, to build, and to plant." And this is, I've made mention of this before. What do you see, Jeremiah? And he says, "I see a staff of an almond tree." And Yahweh said to me, "You have seen well, for I hasten to fill my word." And that word hasten, which is also diligent and industrious, is the word shakad, shin kuf dalet, which is exactly the word for almond. Okay, then verse 14, Yahweh said to me, "From the north, the evil will be released upon all the inhabitants of the land." Well, the word north is zafan, zadi penun, which also means hidden and secret. Okay, verse 16, "I shall pronounce my judgments against Yehudah for all their evil." Now he's going to tell us why the judgment's coming upon the land. So here we are in America, 2020, the month of December, and people talk about all this impending doom and calamity. But Yahweh never pronounces evil upon a land unless it's deserved. That's the word mishpat. Yahweh's throne is established on mishpat and zadakah. Balanced scales, whatever we do is going to come back. That's fakad, pei kuf dalet. "I shall pronounce my judgment for all their evil, because," here we go, "they have forsaken me and burned incense to the Elohim Akrim, gods of others, and prostrated themselves to their own handiwork." Prostrated, they bowed down in front of their own wood carvings. If we trust in our military, we're doing the same damnable thing, meaning we will be cursed and suffer the repercussions as pei kuf dalet of mem shin pei tet. The fakad of the mishafat is that we will suffer for trusting in our weapons if we trust in our weapons. "As for you," verse 17, "you shall gird your loins." That's pull up your pants and get up and speak to them all that I command you. Here's the word, "do not be frightened of them, lest I let you be broken before them." He says, if you're frightened of your enemies, I'm going to crumble you, and you're going to look like a sniveling coward in their eyes. And I'm going to do the same thing to you that you were afraid they were going to do to you. Yeah. Verse 19, "They will wage war against you, but will be unable to defeat you, for I am with you, Nam Yahweh, to rescue you." So I said last week, saying, look, at Yahweh's staging a game like Mark putting his team out on the ice, and he wants to see this play out. And it's like, Oh, come on. Do we really have to engage the fight? Can't we just have the American dream and have the little white picket fence in front of the house with a nicely mowed lawn and the dog never barks? No. Yahweh's staging a battle, and he wants us to be his principal players like a chess game. Chapter 2 of Jeremiah. Yahweh said, I will recall for you the kindness of your youth. What does that mean? Or the kindness he showed Israel in its youth? The love of your nuptials, what you following me into the wilderness? What is that word for nuptial? That's verse 2. Hang on. Kaf, lamed, vav, lamed, tav, yod, kaf. Kaf, lamed, vav, lamed. Kaf, lamed, lamed. Kaf, lamed, hey. It comes back to being the bride. Kaf, lamed, hey. So what I'm trying to show you here is kalul tika. Kaf, lamed, vav, lamed, tav, yod, kaf. Kaf is a suffix meaning you. Tav, yod is also a suffix meaning that I have. Kaf, lamed, lamed comes from kaf, lamed, or kaf, lamed, hey, which means all or everything. You take the second letter, you double it, you make it the third, so kaf, lamed becomes kaf, lamed, lamed, then you stick yods and vavs in between. So here we have kaf, lamed, vav, lamed. It all goes back to kaf, lamed, everything, all. The bride was supposed to give all she is and all she has and all she ever was, and everything becomes new. So kaf, lamed, hey also means to be destroyed and completely annihilated, which is holding on to nothing of your own and taking on everything of your husband's. We were supposed to abandon our culture, our language, our identity, and take on being the people of Yahuwah. That's the word translated nuptial, which means, oh, wait a minute, was that your wedding vow? But it also, if you look in the dictionary, it means married, but it also means espoused or betrothed. Well, what is it? I'm trying to show you that even in the Hebrew, looking at Klein's dictionary, in English, we want the timeline. And he says it's the concept of the whole thing. The concept. Forsake your past, your national identity, your family identity, and take on his identity, which happens through the language and the customs of the Moedim and the Sabbath day and his name. Go ahead, Mark.
That's what I believe when Messiah said, pick up your cross and follow me. Well, the cross is just like a tree, because it could be a tree, and that means pick up your past pagan ways and uproot them and follow me. I think that's what he meant when he said that, pick up your cross and follow me.
Sure. So the interesting thing of, sorry, go ahead.
I said it's the same idea that's what we're talking about.
The word for tree is ayin zadi, which is the same word for wood that we talked about the other day, which is the same thing as having an eye for the sprout of the zadi, which is not only the resurrection, but Aaron's rod that budded. It's this concept of something coming back to life. The hope set before you is the next letter of the Kuf. And so what I'm trying to say here, which you did well to bring out, is that when you know the language, when you read the Old Testament interfaced with the New Testament, you realize that every picture tells a story, and that every story is a picture. And the pictures are in the letters, in the words, and when you take the New Testament words, pictures, stories, and link them back into the 22 letters of the Paleo-Hebrew, you get this other understanding and depth, because each one of those letters is another doorway into some aspect of Yahuwah, his covenant, his people, his Aleph Tav, his plan from the beginning to the end, that you can't see if you just look at the gospel narrative. You just can't see it otherwise. So going back to Jeremiah 2, chapter 2, verse 2, now we go into verse 3. Israel is kadosh, is holy to Yahweh, the first of his crop. Now it's calling him the first of his crop. I thought that Yeshua was the only begotten son. But now he's related, saying, Israel is my firstborn son, the first of my crop. All who devour it will be held guilty. Held guilty, that's the word pei kuf dalet, fakad. to be given an opportunity, like handed a talent, and then him say, what'd you do with it? That's Pekuf Dalit. For Yahweh just says, see the first of my crop? Now I may not stop you from messing with my first crop, but whoever comes and messes with my first crop or my firstborn son is going to be held guilty. Now listen to this phrase. Evil shall come upon them, Nam Yahweh. Or again, that on the array, the picture of the cards, the back of the cards is that red wax signet impression with the alphabet letters saying Nam Yahweh, the word of Yahweh, or so declares Yahweh, or this is the reality. He says, anybody who messes with my son Israel, evil shall come upon them. Okay, that's not only a word to the wise, a word to us to not hurt each other, but it's a word to the people of the world. Well, why hasn't it happened? Well, we'll get into that. But why it hasn't happened is because we haven't been following Yahweh's ways, and the first mishpat comes on Yahweh's own people, and he says, if you don't listen to me, I can't hear your prayers. If you don't shema my dabar, I cannot, gimel mem, even so, backwards, reciprocal, mirror image, I cannot hear your prayers. They are an abomination. An abomination means it's not food. It's not palatable. He can't even take it in. So to think of this, if we don't, or if it says, whoever turns his ear away from hearing the Torah, a mirror image, even so, our prayers are an abomination. Yahweh cannot hear our prayers. Well, then what's happened over the last 2,000 years that the Christian church has preached that we don't have to listen to the Torah? It's a trap. It's a trap which has held Israel in captivity of alienation, of a state of divorcement, of shalakness to Yahweh for 2,000 years, 3,000 if you go back to the days of Solomon, of Rehoboam and Jeroboam, that spun the whole thing into a big mess. Going back here to Jeremiah 2 and 3. Anyway, here, verse 4, chapter 2 of Jeremiah. Hear the word of Yahweh, O house of Jacob, and all the families of the house of Israel. Okay, Shema Dabar Yahweh. Thus says Yahweh, what wrong did your forefathers find in me that they distanced themselves from me and pursued fertility and became futile? They pursued futileness and became futile. You become what you pursue. For us to encourage people to pursue the language is to become of the mind and heart and ruach of Yahweh, because that's where it is. That's where it's found. To pursue the Messiah, Mashiach Yeshua, is to become like him. And he spoke Hebrew. I don't think he was speaking Aramaic and Greek, like people say, because it's the Hebrew, which is the Kadosh. And he was Kadosh. He said, everything my father said is what I say. That's the Hebrew. It wasn't Aramaic and Greek. Verse 6, he's telling us where the problem is. But they do not say, where is Yahuwah who brought us up from the land of Egypt? So when I keep saying we should be saying, where's Yahweh? Why doesn't he live up to his great history, his exploits, the saga, the legendary myth that we have of Yahweh doing these wonderful things to his people? Where is he? I've said that through numerous videos and numerous teachings because I'm trying to play in this. When he says they don't say this, it's like, well, we're saying it now. Where is Yahweh who led us in the wilderness, in a land of desert and a pit, and a land of waste and the shadow of death, and a land through which no man passed and where no person settled? This is Yahweh saying, why don't you guys think? Why don't I show up and do the stuff? Why do you think there's been 3,000-year drought? I brought you into a fruitful land to eat its fruit, that's the land of Canaan, and bounty, but you came and contaminated it. My land made my heritage into an abomination. Well, it's not just heritage meaning the land, but the word heritage here in Nakal also means his people. Our teachers, pastors, priests, prophets have turned Yahweh's people into an abomination. The Kohanim did not say, where is Yahweh? Those charged with teaching the Torah did not know me. The shepherds rebelled against me. The prophets prophesied by Baal, and they went after those that cannot avail. Therefore, I will yet contend with you, Nam Yahweh. When he says, I will yet contend with you, and with your children's children I will contend. He's saying, even though you guys broke the covenant and it looks like you got sent out because that was the terms of the covenant, it's not over. I heard someone the other day write something up saying, hey, in the book of Hosea, it says Yahweh broke the covenant and threw it away and did away with the covenant. No, that's not true. Read the book of Hosea. Every single word says part of the terms of the covenant. Leviticus 26, Deuteronomy 28, says that if we profane it because of mishpat and fachad, we're going to get it's PHQD. We're going to get fucked because we're held responsible for what Yahweh entrusted, which was his identity. And we are still in the terms of that covenant. It is not done away with. It was not annihilated because his people annulled and violated and frustrated it. It also, that same word means broken into little pieces. And how do you pick up the little pieces? Word for word, letter by letter. It's all a picture, metaphor. Our forefathers busted the thing up into little pieces like crumbles. And that's the word shavar, shin bet resh, like shiver me timbers, the pirate, shaking knees. When you shake something and break it down into crumbles, that's the word shavar, and it means we broke the dream, but it also is the same word. It means to break the code. To break the code is to go back and reassemble the little pieces, letter by letter, and rebuild the covenant. It's not done away with. It's still just as viable and active as it's ever been. We had bad teaching. Consider deeply and observe. My people exchanged its glory for something of no avail. We got to go back to where the source of everything was. Verse 13, my people has committed two evils. They forsook me, the source of living waters, and they dug for themselves cisterns, broken cisterns that cannot hold the water. The problem with Christmas and Easter is that, first of all, Yahweh gave us Leviticus 23. He gave us the Sabbath day and 7 festivals. We first took it. And then what we did was we say, hey, let's take as many customs as we can from the pagans, the heathens, the druids, the whoever's, and we'll say, hey, this is the day Jesus was born, which you know darn well it wasn't, and let's celebrate him that day, and we'll sing all sorts of wonderful songs that sound pretty, which he said not to do, especially if they're pagan, heathen things, and we'll say, this is your worship. We've dug for ourselves cisterns which can't hold water, which are of no avail. We've taken on customs which are not his, and we've absolutely rejected the things that are of him. So for us to come back to study these words, his Torah, is the restoration of the marriage relationship.
That's a perfect picture of David going back to get the Ark of the Covenant and coming back. And they're dancing and singing, stopping at every step and praising Yahweh. And still, Uzziah ends up touching the Ark of the Covenant and he dies. So David is totally confused about what, but he didn't do it according to the word of Yahweh. And don't forget, David was a man after Yahweh's own heart. And here his subject ends up dying because he touched the cart, and it's David's fault because he didn't follow the Torah and have the priests, the sons of
Levi.
Pardon me?
The Levi, right?
Yeah, Levites, the priests, and that's the ones that are supposed to carry the ark. And so they were, like I say, they were singing and dancing and praising Yahweh, but it wasn't in the manner that he wanted, right? And that's similar to what you're talking about now. I'm sorry for interrupting, but that's what.
Perfect. This is Jeremiah 2, verse 19. Your evil shall castigate you. Your waywardness shall chasten you. Realize and understand. Yahweh is engaging our brain, our mind. He says, look, think, put 2 and 2 together. Realize that 2 + 2 = 4. Realize everything you do is going to come back. That's mishpat. That's fakad. Your forsaking of Yahweh, your Elohim, is evil and bitter. And my awe was not upon you. Then it says, the word of my Lord Hashem Elohim, master of legions. That's like how big, how many braids, golden braids can you put on the name? Nam, Adonai, Yahweh, Zavot. I mean, if he could speak in any stronger words or put circles and stars and exclamation points around what he's saying, this is it. in Hebrew, my awe was not upon you. It says, lo pei het dalet, fachad. Well, that's really similar. Het, kaf, and kuf are all this hard guttural. And actually, the ayin is a soft one. But it's a play on words. Because you didn't regard my pei kuf dalet, my pei het dalet wasn't upon you. We could look that up here in the dictionary. Let me read what pei het dalet means. Pei het dalet is page 501. Okay, it means to dread, fear, or be in awe, or alarmed, or frightened. Object of fear. It's also the word for thigh, T-H-I-G-H. Dread, fear, or awe, and to be timid or cowardly. So the point is, Yahweh gave us things in his language, in his Shabbat, his Moedim, the stories of the Torah, that we should have a reverent fear, regard, be in awe of him, but also be proud to be. Mark, can you describe what it's like to be on the championship team? What is the feeling going on inside?
The feeling, it's difficult to explain because it's probably different for every person. But when you're attempting to achieve something and you work hard at it, you practice, you play the games, and then at the end, when you end up being successful over everybody else, it's you're just elated, and it's hard to explain the feeling. Like I say, because it's a goal that you've attained. That first of all, it's a goal that you set to win the championship, and when you win the championship, it feels so great. There's no letdown after that. You just want to do even more and try to win again the next year. So it causes you to even try to practice even harder and become better at what you did, because now you have that feeling. You don't want it to leave you ever again.
So what I'm trying to say is that Yahweh, the creator of heaven and earth, designed humans to have that feeling.
Yes, absolutely.
And you have to have that experience that we get in war or sports, maybe politics, winning an election, but there's something about that if you don't experience, you just don't know what it is. That's why I'm saying that because you've had that experience, maybe you could give some substance to it that other people maybe missed out on.
Well, like I say, it's very difficult to put into words, because winning, whether it's a championship or winning the girl of your dreams, like my beautiful wife, it's just something that you feel so blessed because it's happened, but you also know that it would not have happened unless you have put the time in and the practice and the dedication to become what you have. So the Father has given us different qualities, different things that we can do, and when you take what he's given you and you put it to work as you're supposed to do, whether it's the scriptures, whether it's the talents he's given you, and then you see that after the hard work and the dedication and the practice, it brings you to a certain level that you win the prize that you're going for. And that kind of thing can be added to any part of your life, whether, like I say, it's the girl of your dream, the job of your dream, or whatever it is that you're going after. It needs the dedication and the time. Unless you're willing to put the time in. Many people have told me, since now I'm a teacher of Torah, that, oh, it's easy for you, Mark. You've got the great memory. You've got this, you've got that. But I don't have those. It's like Eric. He started off not knowing anything. And that's what, 10, 12 years ago? And all of a sudden now, he would even be beyond a scholar, because he saw something that he wanted to achieve. And nowhere at any time in Eric's life at the beginning did he think he would be where he's at now. It's the same thing with me. I never even read the scriptures until I was 54 years old. And so if you get something and you put in the time and you're dedicated to not let anything take you away from that, you're going to achieve the goal. And that's what Yahweh's put in every one of us. But not every one of us is willing to put the time in and the effort that it takes to win.
So let me go back and look at this word pei het dalet. to elaborate a little bit more. So if you have a 3-letter word, pei, chet, dalet, look at 2-letter groups. So chet dalet is the word chad, as in hidden, something hidden, where we get, if it's chet yod dalet, it's like a riddle. But pei chet, it says here on page 501 of the dictionary, is a plate of metal or tin, okay, but also a snare or a trap, which might be made like a bear trap out of a plate of metal. It also means disappointment. Okay, so why would he say you had no fear or terror or awe of me or disappointment? Yahweh has built into the universe traps and snares that are hidden, but they're in riddles of words. But not only is there traps and snares that we might think, oh, wait a minute, that's for loss, for getting your leg, like you put a wild animal snare and the animal gets trapped and it's a horrible thing. But he also has put, you might say, promises of rejoicing and blessing and greatness if we would just do what he said. And he said, listen, I've told you where the traps and snares are. If you follow the customs of the people around you that don't know me, that have no idea who I am, yeah, they have wonderful, pretty-faced little gods. You know, the famous Jesus picture is a picture of, what is his name, Caesar? The point is, that's where the face of Jesus that we have inherited comes from. It's like, what the heck? He said, make no image for yourselves. It's in Hebrew, lo, that's lamed aleph, ye, yod he, leka, lamed kaf, or for yourself. Do not make or cause to exist. Yod he, ye. It's like Yod he vav he is the sacred name, but this is Yod he. Aleph he Yod he is the I am, Ehyeh, the one who causes himself to exist. So the Yod prefix means he will, He Yod he, exist. Do not for yourselves, he will exist. In other words, don't make anything, he said, anything, no image, male or female. Not an animal, a bird, a fish, a reptile, a stars of the heaven. Do not make any graphic, sculptural image for yourself to worship. That's been the promise all along. King of Jeremiah 2. Is Israel a slave? Is he born to a housemaid? In other words, was he born into slavery? Why has he become prey? That's a good question. So you look around, you see the Fiddler on the Roof movie, and Tovia says, I know we're the chosen people, but could you choose somebody else for a while? What a son of a bitch. Why did those words ever come out of his mouth? It's because he doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't know. There was a Holocaust Memorial Day up in Idaho a few years ago, and I was up there, and somebody played some film that somebody had done about the World War II Holocaust, and there was a few Jewish people there, and it was a somber day. And they had question and answer at the end. And I asked the guy, he says, hey, listen, do you Jews talk amongst yourselves? Do you ever discuss why that happened? Why did your God, why did your Elohim allow Hitler's Nazis to do this, to decimate 6 million of you? Why? And the guy said, we have no idea. No idea.
It's simply amazing that they don't have any idea.
Well, right here, Jeremiah chapter 2, verse 14. Why has he become prey? Verse 15, young lions have roared over him. They have raised their voice. They have made the wasteland cities devastated without inhabitant. Even the people of Noph and Taphanes smash your skull. Well, if you look at the meaning of those two words, Noph and Taphanes, it seems like it's saying the word for Noph, Nun Vav Pei, means swing or sway. It almost looks kind of gay. Ugh. Can I say that? It looks swishy. Swishy people in Tathsanese, it's like, I don't see where I wrote that word down. He's using those two names of places to describe even effeminate people are like warriors compared to you. Yahweh here is really ridiculing his people Israel and saying, you don't even need a big tough guy to come beat you up. You get swishy people to come beat you up. Gosh, has this not been done to you because you forsake Yahweh your Elohim when he leads you on the path? Okay. You wander like a harlot. Verse 20. For I have always broken your yoke and torn off your straps. Yahweh says, I've rescued you every single time. And you have said, I will not transgress. There's the, yeah, we'll do what you say. What do they call that? A foxhole conversion? Yet upon every lofty hill and under every leafy tree, you wander like a harlot. That word leafy tree is where you get the word Rhiannon, with the name of the Welsh witch, Rhiannon. Rhiannon's not necessarily a bad thing because Yahweh talks in another place about the leafy tree being a beautiful thing. But I'm just saying the word's pronounced Rhiannon, like Stevie Nicks, Fleetwood Mac, that song is a leafy tree, where they performed their harlotries of worshiping other deities. Verse 22, even if you were to wash with niter, that might be like what, witch hazel or something, and use much soap, your iniquity has become a stain before me, Nam Yahweh Elohim. How can you say, I have not become contaminated? I have not gone after the Baalim, the gods, the lords. That's like, I'm being brought up in the Christian church, and it's like, we're God's people. What do you mean we're walking waywardly? Shut up. You don't even know. We're his people. We're the spiritual Israel. We're walking in the ways of Jesus Christ, and we're forgiven and cleansed by his shed blood. See your pathway in the valley and recognize what you have done. Like a young camel careening in her ways. What are you talking about? What have we done wrong? That's what Israel's saying. Like a wild donkey accustomed to the wilderness at her soul's desire, she sucks in air. It's like a donkey, an ass in heat, looking for someone to fornicate with. 25, withhold your foot from barefootedness and your throat from thirst, but you have said, it's hopeless, for I'm in love with strangers, and after them I will go. Yahweh is calling his people back. We won't have it. Verse 29, previous verse, as the number of your cities were your gods, O Judah. Judah, the one that Yahweh did not divorce, that says later, had like a God forever city. The Greeks did the same thing. Verse 21, why should you contend with me? You have rebelled against me. Nam Yahweh, in vain did I strike your children, for they did not accept rebuke. Your sword has devoured your prophets like a destructive lion. O generation, he's talking to us, contemplate the word of Yahweh. Have I been a wilderness to Israel, or a land of deep darkness? Why have my people said, we separate ourselves from you, we will no longer come to you? Can a maiden forget her jewelry, a bride her adornments? Yet my people have forgotten me for days without number. How you adorned your way to seek love. Indeed, the greatest evils have you accustomed your ways. Even on your hems is found the blood of poor innocent souls. It says, yet you did not discover them in a break-in. How many, the great Christian country of America, how many aborted children has there been in the last 10 or 20 years?
140 billion.
What are we doing? What are we doing? We think we're the great Christian country and that Yahweh loves us and all of our sins are under the blood of Christ, but yet we find ourselves just as guilty as the worst people that have ever walked the planet of the earth. Israel. Yahweh says Israel did worse sins than even the Canaanites that he cast out, worse than even Sodom and Gomorrah. Go down to chapter 3, verse 6. Have you seen what Israel has rebellious Israel did? She went to every high mountain under every leafy tree and committed adultery there. I said, even after she had all done all these things, return to me, that's the word teshuvah, but she did not return. And her unfaithful sister Judah saw what befell her and saw that despite the fact that I divorced, here we go, I divorced wayward Israel because of her adultery and gave her a bill of divorce to her, unfaithful Judah, her sister, was not afraid. She too went and committed adultery. So it happened that with the frivolity of her adultery, she brought guilt upon the land because she committed adultery with stone and wood. Despite all this, the unfaithful one, her sister Judah, did not return to me with all her heart, but only falsely, Nam Yahweh. And then Yahweh said to me, wayward Israel, the one that was divorced, was more virtuous than unfaithful Judah. Go and proclaim these words towards the north and say, the north, the hidden, unseen, the north, the 10 tribes of Israel. And remember what I'm saying, this word for divorce is shalak, to send away, to eject. And people saying, okay, well, he divorced, we now have spiritual Israel, we have a new wife, the bride of Christ. But it says here, return, O wayward Israel, Nam Yahweh, I will not cast down my anger upon you, for I am the beneficent one, Nam Yahweh, the one we read about back there in Exodus. And I will not bear a grudge forever, verse 13, Jeremiah 3, but you must recognize your sin. That's the word hod. Hod, as in Yehuda, as in Hodu. It means praise, thanks, glory, confess the sin that you have rebelled against Yahweh your Elohim, and you have spread out your ways to seek strange gods under every leafy tree, and did not heed my voice, the word of Yahweh. Return. He's now saying he has got two sisters that are daughters. Now he's calling them sons. Return, O wayward sons, Nam Yahweh. Every time he says Nam Yahweh, it's translated the word of the Lord. It's like you can't get, he's dropping his tears on the page. I shall be your master. I shall take you, one from a city, two from a family, and I will bring you to Zion. That word Zion, Zadi Yod Vav Nun, Zadi Yod is my command. That's the resurrection. That's the sprout. I shall appoint shepherds for you according to my own heart, and they will care for you with knowledge and wisdom, knowing his words. Da'at, that's knowledge, and this word here for wisdom is shakil. Chakma is also wisdom, but here shakil, it means to be able to think and appropriate what you read and how to do something properly. It's the word for clever and cunning, really wrapping your mind around it. And it shall be that when you multiply and become fruitful in land in those days, which I believe is in front of us, Nam Yahweh, they will no longer say, oh, the Ark of the Covenant of Yahweh. It will not come to mind. They will not mention it, will not recall it, will not be used anymore. Well, the Ark of the Covenant, that's the center of the whole kingdom. Like Mark said, when the Ark of the Covenant came back, and Yahweh said, it's not about the Ark. It's not about the sacrifices and offerings. He's told us that before. It's about doing what he said. They will not mention it, won't recall it, and won't be used anymore. Verse 17, at that time, people will call Jerusalem the throne of Yahuwah. Have they ever called it that? It's always been you might say, the cesspool of prostitution and desecration. And all the nations will be gathered to her in the name of Yahweh. You can't even mention his name there right now. So this hasn't happened yet. To Jerusalem, they were no longer to follow the visions of their evil heart. In those days, verse 18, the house of Yehuda will walk with the house of Israel. There it is. The regathered, the reconfederated 12 tribes that we were talking about last week with Ezekiel 37. And they will come together, Kam, Ayin Mem, Kaf Mem, from the land of the north, from the hidden, to the land that I have given as a possession to your fathers. I have said, how can I place you among the other children? So I gave you a cherished land, a heritage coveted by the multitudes of the nations. The best place on the face of the earth, what we see over right now, which is a barren desert with a few little gardens growing, is not the promise in front of us. That place is going to resprout like the Garden of Eden. And I said, call me Abi, my father, and do not turn away from behind me. That's following in his debar. But like a woman who was unfaithful to her mate, you have been unfaithful to me, O house of Israel, Nam Yahweh. The crying, the voice is heard on the hilltops, the crying of the children of Israel's supplications. That's her prayers and crying out. For they have corrupted their ways, they have forgotten Yahweh, their Elohim. Say to them, return, O wayward sons, and I will heal your waywardness. See, Yahweh is not forsaken. There's no spiritual Israel. It's Israel coming back and walking in the ways of our Elohim, Yahuwah Eloheinu, Zavot. We've been lied to for 2,000 years of Christianity. Behold, we will come to you, for you are Yahweh our Elohim. Truly it was falsehood that we worshipped from the hills the multitude of mountains, for truly in Yahweh Elohim is the salvation of Israel. But the shameful idolatry is what has devoured the toil of our fathers from our youth. Sheep and cattle, their sons and daughters, we lie down in our shame, and our humiliation covers us, for we have sinned to Yahweh Elohim and our forefathers from our youth until this day, for we have not heeded the voice, the Kol Yahweh Eloheinu, not heeded the voice. You go back in Deuteronomy 30, when all these things have come upon you, the blessing and the curse, return to the voice of Yahuwah. His voice is in the Hebrew language, and the words of this covenant that we, our forefathers, swore us into allegiance then, now, and forever. Any voice that says it was done away with is a voice of lies, a trap and a snare by which our generations have been desecrated and decimated and defiled and continue to this day. And the study of this language, the return to this Torah, the sitting down on Shabbat, the regard of the Moedim, and the crying out to the name Yud, He, Vav, He is the restoration, the antidote that he has given us and has proclaimed. And he says in chapter 4, verse 1, if you repent, O Israel, Nam Yahweh, you will return to me, to Yahweh. He didn't say you'll return to Jesus Christ as your God with a nice picture of on the wall of him. He says you will return to me. If you remove your abominations from before me, then you will not wander, stray, go astray, fall off the cliff, step into the trap and have your leg bitten by the metal. If you swear as Yahweh lives, in truth, in justice, and in righteousness, the nation, that's the if, here's the then. The nations will bless themselves through, and it has Israel in brackets. In other words, once Israel starts doing what we're supposed to do, the entire world gets blessed and will praise themselves through it. That word, if you swear, it's the word shin bet ayin, and it basically means to satisfy the oath of 7. And there's 7 festivals, and then there's the day of the Shabbat on the 7th day. There's something about the keeping of the day of Shabbat on the 7th day and the walking in the 7 festivals. As he said, the 7 Moedim are the witness and testimony. The Ayin Dalet, the Ed of Moed, is the witness and testimony that we are listening to his words. We're coming back to walk in his ways, and in his ways of chesed and emet, quit abusing the widows, the orphans, the poor, the destitute, quit charging exorbitant interest, quit lying to everybody. Everything America has been doing is the guilt of Israel. And anybody that likes to think, oh, British Israelite, Ephraim and Manasseh, oh, we're God's chosen people, we're leading the world through Hollywood and through the banking system and through the whole Illuminati New World Order thing. We are leading the world in corruption and death. And if we, his people, call out to his name and walk in truth and in kindness and in righteousness and in justice, these 4 words he uses repeatedly, emet and chesed, truth and kindness, mishpat, right ruling of justice, and zadikah, righteousness. That's the derek that we're supposed to be walking on. How many does it take? I can't account for Washington or Sacramento or Salem, Oregon, but I can account for me and my household that we will walk in his ways. My heart changed and we put out these videos, maybe other hearts will change, and we go back to how many of who, doing what, when, for how long, with what heart is it going to take? Yahweh said in another place, I can't find one person, he says.
Can we pray right now?
One person?
Father,
go ahead.
Father, I just want to declare that we are Israel and that we were wrong and our ancestors were wrong. And we call out to you in your name, Yahuwah. And I just ask everybody watching this, just pray that same thing. Our ancestors were wrong. We are Israel. You are Yahuwah. We will walk in your ways moving forward. In Yahuwah's mighty name, I pray. Amen.
Everything that Yahweh says we'll hear and we will do.
Amen.